Deep inside a Martian core sample, researchers found molecular fingerprints that weren't random chemistry. They showed chirality, the same-handedness rule followed by every living thing on Earth. Even more shocking, those molecules formed complex DNA-like structures, the kind of chemistry that doesn't just happen by accident. If life really did spark on Mars, where did it go? Was it wiped out, or could something still be alive, buried beneath the dust, waiting? Let's dive into. NASA's Perseverance rover touched down on Mars with a mission that seemed straightforward: search for signs of past life. It was the first step in a multi-billion-dollar effort to one day return Martian rock samples to Earth. But what Perseverance uncovered surpassed every expectation and challenged long-held assumptions about our planetary neighbor. Operating in Jezero crater, a 28-mile-wide depression thought to be an ancient lake bed, the rover spent months drilling, sampling, and photographing the terrain. Its ability to maneuver across rugged landscapes and collect meticulous data already impressed scientists. Then came the unexpected. A routine sequence of readings, images, and chemical tests suggested something beyond sediments or fossilized microbes. Beneath layers of iron-rich dust and oxidized rock, Perseverance detected molecular signatures that hinted at processes far more profound than geology alone. The breakthrough came from a core drilled near a site labeled Sector Delta 9. At first, the material appeared to be another clay-rich deposit. But analysis revealed something extraordinary. Embedded within the sample were complex carbon chains. These weren't common organic fragments. They were structured macromolecules, rare in extraterrestrial environments and strikingly consistent with biological synthesis. Their repeating patterns and polymer complexity resembled what on Earth could be considered a primitive precursor to DNA or RNA. The revelation deepened with spectrometric analysis. The molecules displayed chirality, handedness, a universal trait of life on Earth. Amino acids and sugars in living systems show consistent left or right-handed orientations, an asymmetry not expected in random chemistry. Yet Perseverance's samples displayed a slight but measurable bias in molecular chirality. They weren't evenly distributed but leaned subtly in one direction. Such asymmetry is extraordinarily difficult to explain without invoking biological processes. It was not merely chemistry frozen in time, but a molecular fingerprint of selection, possibly reproduction. In that moment, the interpretation of Mars shifted. These findings suggested more than habitability; they pointed to the memory of something once alive. The discovery reshaped not only the mission's trajectory but also humanity's understanding of life beyond Earth. The implications struck the scientific community with force. The discovery suggested that early Mars was not just habitable but potentially biogenic. If confirmed, this transformed Mars from a planet with water into one that may have once hosted a complex biological ecosystem. Following the chemical revelations, Perseverance's microscopic imaging zoomed in on the core sample. What emerged were fractal-like formations arranged in filaments, echoing microbial mats from Earth's most extreme environments, hydrothermal vents, subglacial lakes, and deep-sea crusts. They were not fossils in the usual sense, but molecular imprints bearing the unmistakable residue of life-driven processes. The finding unsettled planetary science. Earth had long been considered the unique cradle of biochemistry, blessed with the right distance from the sun, magnetic field, geology, and atmosphere. Mars, by contrast, seemed a less likely candidate, limited by its weak magnetosphere, thin atmosphere, and frigid climate. Yet the evidence pointed to a once thriving chemical environment capable of producing and perhaps sustaining life for significant stretches of time. What astonished researchers most was the convergence implied by the molecules. They showed structural similarities to Earth-based counterparts, yet diverged enough, chirality, bonding angles, functional groups, to suggest an independent origin. This was not contamination, nor was it panspermia in its traditional sense, life seeded from Earth or beyond. Instead, it hinted at parallel evolution at the molecular scale. Nature, it seemed, had discovered more than one pathway toward life. The consequences reached far beyond Mars. If life can arise independently in two places within the same solar system, then the odds of it existing elsewhere rise dramatically. It may dwell beneath Europa's ice crust, in Titan's methane lakes, or in Enceladus's hidden oceans. Even the Drake equation, once reserved for estimating the number of civilizations, demanded revision. Its scope now extended not just to intelligence but to life in its earliest forms. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect was not scientific but psychological. For centuries, Mars symbolized mystery and distance. With this discovery, it became a mirror. Its organic residues felt less alien than familiar, as if Mars were a sibling planet, one that began the same story but was cut short, frozen in youth by planetary misfortune. Perseverance has uncovered a wide range of rocks and soil layers that reveal Mars' volcanic and watery past. Equipped with SuperCam, a tool combining a camera, laser, and spectrometers, the rover can study rocks closely and determine their composition. Its analysis revealed volcanic rocks, evidence of ancient eruptions that once reshaped the Martian surface. Studying them helps scientists reconstruct when and how volcanic activity occurred. Alongside these, sedimentary layers appeared, formed by flowing water that left behind sand and mud, later compressed into stone. Each layer acts like a page in Mars' geological record, preserving stories of rivers and lakes that once existed. As instruments were recalibrated for more precise targeting, Perseverance made an even more striking find. Within calcite veins and hydrated silicates, it detected polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. While PAHs can form without biology, the structures here, complete with alkylated chains and selective isomers, mirrored those produced by microbial decay on Earth. Their clustering in low-lying troughs, places once filled with water, echoed microbial bloom decay zones seen on Earth's seafloors. The terrain around Delta 9 grew richer in meaning. Sedimentary layers displayed ripple patterns pointing to slow-moving currents, perhaps tidal. Clay deposits showed alterations requiring long-term exposure to slightly alkaline water. Together, these features suggested a once stable aquatic environment capable of supporting complex chemistry. Mineralogy painted the picture of an ancient oasis, with warm waters and chemical gradients ideal for molecular assembly. Supporting data on atmospheric composition, magnetic field reversals, and isotopic ratios indicated that Mars once had a thicker atmosphere, likely rich in greenhouse gases, allowing liquid water to persist on the surface. Though this hospitable period may have lasted only tens of millions of years, it was potentially long enough for intricate organic processes to take hold. What Perseverance revealed was not a barren rock but a planet that had been dynamic, with water, active geology, and the ingredients necessary for life's emergence. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Don't forget to share it with your friends too. It helps the channel out, and I'm excited to continue bringing you more awesome content. But where could that Martian life have gone? Mars is quite inhospitable on the surface today, but what about underground? Just like Earth, Mars could have layers beneath its surface where tiny life forms found a safe place away from the freezing temperatures and radiation on the surface. These hidden spots could have had everything tiny microbes needed to live, like water and food from chemical reactions, even without any sunlight. On Earth, we find life in some really unexpected places, like at the bottom of the ocean or in the hot springs of Yellowstone Park. These creatures don't rely on sunlight. Instead, they get their energy from chemicals in their environment. Scientists believe that if there was life on Mars, it could have survived in similar underground locations, feeding on chemicals from rocks. This idea isn't just speculation. It's based on real science. Researchers have been studying places on Earth where life survives in extreme conditions and are using what they've learned to figure out where we might find life on Mars. The idea that there could be a deep biosphere on Mars, similar to the deep, dark places where life lurks on Earth, is a game changer. The evidence pointed to ancient hydrothermal activity. Long ago, geothermal heat from volcanic hotspots may have warmed subsurface water, creating the perfect crucibles for microbial development. Mars may not have had one genesis site. It might have had thousands spread across its ancient seafloors and buried riverbeds. This idea opened an entirely new paradigm. Until now, humanity had been bound by the assumption that a planet needed an enduring surface biosphere to support life. Mars suggested a different story. that life could rise and fall within a short planetary window, confined to subsurface refuges and chemical microniches. These environments may have been out of sight, but they were rich, potent, and dynamic enough to generate complex organic evolution before vanishing into geological silence. But here's the terrifying question that haunts every scientist studying these findings. What if life didn't completely vanish? What if it retreated deeper underground, adapting to the harsh conditions, evolving in isolation for billions of years? The isotopic skew wasn't confined to a single spot. It extended in radial patterns that hinted at diffusion from a central source, perhaps a once thriving microbial hotspot or even a vast underground aquifer system. If Mars harbored life in its subsurface, that life could still be there, waiting in the darkness, possibly evolved into forms we can't even imagine. This means life could exist in places we've never considered before, both on Mars and on other planets throughout the universe. In the vast expanse of Mars, UFO enthusiasts believe they have found groundbreaking evidence, a circle of stones arranged in a ring, which they call Marshenge, after Earth's Stonehenge. This supposed structure has fueled debates and theories. Some claim it could be the remains of an ancient Martian society, perhaps even linked to early Earth cultures or visitors from beyond. To them, Marshenge represents a possible clue to a lost civilization, sparking speculation about life that may once have existed on Mars and whether it had contact with our planet. Not everyone is convinced. Scientists and planetary researchers remain highly skeptical. While the stone circle is intriguing, they argue it is not evidence of a Martian Stonehenge, but more likely the product of natural processes. Other enthusiasts point to NASA photos showing shapes they say resemble pyramids, statues, and even faces. They argue these formations are too precise to be accidental, interpreting them as remnants of buildings or art from an intelligent Martian past. These claims have generated widespread discussion and fascination. The scientific community, however, offers a different explanation. Mars has been sculpted by wind, erosion, and shifting sands over millions of years. Natural processes can create shapes that appear strikingly familiar to us. Researchers often cite pareidolia, the brain's tendency to see recognizable patterns like faces or animals, where none exist. It is the same phenomenon that makes us see shapes in clouds. To scientists, these so-called pyramids or faces are simply rocks and shadows, not proof of lost civilizations. While surface formations capture public imagination, the most compelling discoveries are hidden beneath Mars soil. Perseverance has detected organic compounds and chiral molecules, chemical signatures far more persuasive than stone circles or rock faces. These molecular traces suggest that Mars once held the conditions necessary for life, so providing stronger evidence of its potential past biology than any surface structure could offer. Leading the exploration of Mars are NASA's rovers Curiosity and Perseverance. These robotic explorers are packed with advanced instruments designed to study the red planet in unprecedented detail. Curiosity, part of the Mars Science Laboratory mission, landed in Gale Crater in August 2012. Its main goals were to determine if Mars could ever have supported microbes, to study the planet's climate and geology, and to collect data useful for future human missions. Over the years, Curiosity has uncovered strong evidence that rivers and lakes once flowed across Mars. It has detected chemical building blocks of life and seasonal variations in the atmosphere, all suggesting that Mars may once have been habitable. Perseverance, the newer rover, landed in Jezero crater on February 18, 2021. Scientists believe this region once held a lake, making it an ideal place to search for signs of past life. Perseverance's mission is to look for biosignatures, study ancient Martian environments, and collect rock and soil samples for possible return to Earth. The rover also carries groundbreaking experiments. MOXIE, a device that extracts oxygen from Mars' carbon dioxide-rich atmosphere, is a first step toward enabling astronauts to breathe and produce fuel on Mars. Perseverance also deployed the Ingenuity helicopter, proving that controlled flight is possible in the planet's thin atmosphere. Together, Curiosity and Perseverance act as the eyes and hands of scientists on Mars. Curiosity continues to study Gale Crater's ancient environments, while Perseverance actively searches for direct signs of biology in Jezero crater. Their combined discoveries offer a fuller picture of Mars' history and habitability. the data has already reshaped our understanding. Curiosity's detection of seasonal methane hints at active geological or even biological processes. Perseverance's discovery of organic molecules showing signs of chirality, the molecular handedness associated with life, represents the strongest evidence yet that Mars may once have hosted living systems. These rovers are humanity's most advanced tools in answering a fundamental question: are we alone in the universe? Each image, sample, and measurement they send back brings us closer to uncovering Mars' secrets and preparing for the day humans set foot on its surface. The selection of Jezero crater as Perseverance's landing site wasn't random. Scientists spent years analyzing potential locations, and Jezero emerged as the most promising site for finding evidence of ancient life. This 28-mile-wide crater contains some of the most well-preserved evidence of ancient water activity on Mars. Billions of years ago, Jezero crater was home to a large lake fed by rivers that carved channels still visible today. The crater contains a river delta, where sediments and potentially organic materials would have been deposited over millions of years. If life ever existed on Mars, Jezero crater would be one of the most likely places to find evidence of it. The way Perseverance landed on Mars is just as fascinating as where it landed. NASA used a special system called the Sky Crane to gently place the rover on the ground. This wasn't a typical space landing. First, the spacecraft carrying Perseverance quickly entered the Martian atmosphere. Then, it used a huge parachute to decelerate while it was still high in the sky. But the really incredible part came next. Instead of landing on wheels or legs, Perseverance was carefully lowered to the ground by a type of flying crane with rocket engines. This sky crane carried the rover to its landing site, and once the rover touched down, the crane flew off to land in a safe location some distance away. This incredible technology was first used with the Curiosity rover, but for Perseverance, it was refined and improved to handle the rugged terrain of Jezero crater. This method is amazing because it allows scientists to land rovers in much more interesting and much harder to reach places than before. Before Sky Crane, landing sites had to be wide, flat, and somewhat boring to avoid accidents. But now, with this new technology, we can land in places that are much more exciting for science, like Jezero crater with its cliffs, dunes, and boulder fields. The success of Sky Crane shows how smart solutions and bold engineering can open up new possibilities for exploration. Thanks to this technology, Perseverance could begin its mission right in the middle of a fascinating landscape immediately after landing. The rover found itself surrounded by the geological history of Mars, with ancient river channels, delta formations, and sedimentary deposits, all within reach of its sophisticated instruments. As Perseverance began exploring Jezero crater, it became clear that the site selection was even more prescient than scientists had hoped. The rover's early discoveries of organic molecules and complex carbon structures validated the decision to land in this ancient lake bed. The crater's unique geology had preserved a record of Mars' past that might have been erased elsewhere on the planet. The international scientific community was thrown into coordinated motion following Perseverance's groundbreaking discoveries. Data-sharing pipelines between NASA, ESA, JAXA, and other space agencies were activated at an unprecedented pace. Robotic missions that had long been theoretical gained immediate priority and funding. Orbiters already circling Mars began fine-tuning their spectral analyses to scan for similar patterns across other crater lakes, including Gale, Eberswalde, and Holden. It became clear that Jezero might not be unique. If other deltas harbored similar structures, it would mean Mars wasn't simply lucky. It had been systematically habitable in its past, possibly planet-wide. Simultaneously, Perseverance's drill moved deeper, inching its way toward older sediment layers untouched for eons. The deeper it went, the more compelling the narrative became. Anomalous isotopic ratios of nitrogen and sulfur started appearing. These isotopes, particularly the lighter variants, are key indicators of biological processing. On Earth, microbes prefer lighter isotopes for metabolic reasons, leaving behind signatures that geologists can identify even after billions of years. The presence of similar signatures on Mars pointed to the existence of comparable selective processes. Again, not definitive proof of life, but a chemical fingerprint that implied biological activity had once influenced the soil composition. What made this discovery even more unsettling wasn't just the depth of the findings, it was the breadth. The isotopic variations weren't confined to a single spot. They extended in radial patterns that hinted at diffusion from a central source, perhaps a once thriving microbial hotspot or even a vast underground aquifer system. NASA's high-gain antennas continued to stream a flood of data back to Earth. Dozens of laboratories worldwide began modeling the organic structures discovered, trying to simulate their formation under controlled conditions. It wasn't just about confirming what Perseverance had found. It was about understanding how such complexity could arise in a Martian environment. The implications extended far beyond Mars. If life could emerge independently on two planets within the same solar system, it suggested that life might be a common occurrence throughout the universe. Astrobiologists began revising their estimates of potentially habitable worlds, and the search for life expanded to include moons like Europa, Enceladus, and Titan. Beyond the ongoing successes of Curiosity and Perseverance, NASA's long-term plans for Mars are ambitious. The most significant effort is the Mars Sample Return Program, aiming to bring back the samples Perseverance is collecting, possibly even those from Curiosity. The mission involves sending a lander to retrieve the samples, launching them into orbit, and transferring them to an orbiter for return to Earth around 2033. It will be the first time Martian material is deliberately delivered to terrestrial laboratories. This mission is crucial because while rover instruments are advanced, Earth-based labs can conduct analyses far beyond what can be done on Mars. Using mass spectrometers, electron microscopes, and other powerful tools, scientists will be able to examine samples at the molecular level, potentially confirming or refuting the biosignatures already hinted at by Perseverance. In the meantime, the rovers will continue their work. Curiosity has already found evidence of ancient water and studied Mars' climate, while Perseverance is actively searching for signs of past life. Together, they will keep building the foundation for the next stage of exploration. But Mars exploration doesn't stop with sample collection. The larger vision is human exploration and eventual settlement. NASA views its Artemis program, returning humans to the Moon, as a stepping stone. By building a sustainable lunar presence, NASA can test the life support systems, radiation shielding, and resource utilization technologies needed for a Mars mission. SpaceX, led by Elon Musk, has its own bold timeline. Musk envisions self-sustaining Martian cities, complete with farms, infrastructure, and communities. Starship, the spacecraft under development, is designed to carry large numbers of people and cargo, and its reusability could make frequent trips to Mars financially feasible. Musk also proposes using Martian resources directly to produce water, oxygen, and building materials, reducing reliance on Earth. Creating such a settlement would mean developing methods to grow food in Martian soil, generate power through solar or nuclear systems, and build habitats from local materials. However, recent discoveries of organic molecules and possible biosignatures raise an added challenge. The colonization must be pursued carefully to avoid contaminating or destroying potential Martian ecosystems. NASA, SpaceX, and international partners are working together on these challenges, building the technology and strategies needed to ensure that when humans finally land on Mars, they will be prepared not just to visit, but to stay. Perseverance's discoveries have reshaped our understanding of life in the universe. The molecular fingerprints within Martian soil, chiral molecules, complex organics, and isotopic signatures echoing Earth's biology suggest Mars was once a cradle of chemistry organized enough to sustain life. This evidence challenges the view of Mars as a barren world, pointing instead to a planet that may have once flourished with biology. What do you think about these groundbreaking discoveries? Could Mars still harbor life in its deep underground biosphere? How will this change our approach to exploring and potentially colonizing the Red Planet? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this video opened your eyes to the incredible possibilities that exist right in our own solar system, make sure to like and subscribe for more mind-bending discoveries about our universe. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. When Elon Musk took the stage, everyone expected another update on SpaceX's Mars plans. Instead, he dropped a bombshell about the Moon that left scientists speechless. Based on data from a recent lunar flyby, the Moon isn't what we've always thought it was. What did SpaceX discover on that orbit? Let's explore. For centuries, we believe the moon formed about 4.5 billion years ago from debris after a Mars-sized object hit early Earth. We understood its effects on tides, Earth's rotation, and its slow drift away. This knowledge seemed complete. However, SpaceX's new lunar probe, led by Musk, found unusual surface materials and internal structures. The data suggests the moon may have hollow areas or large underground voids never seen before. Thermal and electromagnetic readings also defy natural geological explanations. If true, this challenges everything we know about the moon's origin and role in Earth's history. Musk's findings hint at hidden, possibly ancient or artificial structures beneath the surface, indicated by symmetrical voids and regular electromagnetic signals beyond normal natural processes. These discoveries didn't emerge from speculation or fringe theories. The SpaceX probe employed next-generation scanning technologies that represent the cutting edge of space exploration. We're talking about deep penetration ground radar systems and quantum resonance mapping technologies designed by some of the most advanced AI-driven engineering teams in the world. The mapping process uncovered vast sublunar chambers and geometric patterns that bear an eerie resemblance to artificial construction. These formations aren't random geological outcomes shaped by billions of years of cosmic bombardment. Their angles, curves, and distribution across different lunar sectors suggest intention, planning, possibly even engineering on a scale we've never encountered. The precision of these structures is what makes them so remarkable. Without using the word alien, Musk made it clear that what they'd found was beyond the scope of current planetary science. The geometric patterns follow mathematical principles found in advanced architecture and engineering, not in natural rock formations created by impact craters and volcanic activity. Do you believe advanced AI-driven technologies are finally unlocking cosmic secrets that were hidden for billions of years? Why or why not? Comment and chat with me. What makes these discoveries even more intriguing is their location. The anomalies are concentrated in regions that have long been avoided by previous missions. These are places where shadows persist for months, where Apollo missions never landed, and where older robotic probes had inexplicably failed or lost contact with Earth. Musk showed side-by-side comparisons of these shadowy regions and their radar impressions during his presentation. The images revealed clean linear divisions beneath the surface, vast domes of vacuum beneath the lunar regolith, and highly reflective materials positioned at precise intervals. This wasn't the chaotic jumble of rock and debris you'd expect from natural formation processes. The temperature readings added another mysterious layer to these discoveries. In places where surface temperatures should remain relatively stable, the probe detected localized heat spikes emanating from several meters below the surface. These heat signatures appeared at regular intervals, following patterns that suggested some form of systematic organization rather than random geological activity. These were not minor temperature fluctuations easily explained by solar heating or natural radioactive decay. The signals pulsed in rhythmic patterns, which some have speculated could indicate an operational system beneath the lunar surface. To describe the findings, Musk referred to Earth-based analogies like geothermal vents or reactor cores, though the patterns did not match any known natural energy phenomena. This was not geothermal activity in a conventional sense. The heat signatures suggested a different source, possibly a form of thermal regulation or containment system with an unknown purpose. This new data sheds light on decades of unexplained lunar phenomena that scientists have previously found puzzling. Unexplained seismic activity, called moonquakes, has challenged researchers for years. These tremors sometimes happen without corresponding meteor impacts or tectonic activity. Musk suggested they might be linked to subsurface structures settling, adjusting, or responding to unknown stimuli. SpaceX's instruments detected harmonic vibrations in the moon's crust at frequencies not seen in natural rock formations. Some interpret this as the moon resonating in response to certain influences, possibly the probe itself or unknown cosmic factors not yet understood. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. It helps support the channel, and I'm excited to continue bringing you more great content. Another notable aspect of Musk's announcement concerned the Moon's electromagnetic environment. For decades, scientists believed the Moon had an almost non-existent magnetic field compared to Earth's strong magnetosphere, based on data from Apollo missions and lunar orbiters showing weak, scattered magnetic readings. However, SpaceX's probe detected localized electromagnetic fields that were intensely focused and patterned across several regions on the far side of the Moon. These fields were not random patches caused by impacts but arranged in configurations resembling antenna arrays or energy grids. This was surprising because magnetic fields typically do not form such neat, symmetrical patterns on a celestial body as old and geologically inactive as the Moon. The precision of these electromagnetic formations suggests some form of organized structure beneath the surface, though their origin remains unknown. These findings sparked various interpretations within scientific communities and online discussions, including speculative ideas involving ancient technologies or unknown processes. Musk did not endorse these theories, focusing instead on the observable data. While the data challenges existing assumptions about the Moon and our solar system, independent verification is needed. If confirmed, these results could influence multiple fields such as astronomy, planetary geology, and our broader understanding of the cosmos. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of Musk's revelation involves something that sounded like science fiction but was grounded in hard scientific data. As the SpaceX probe orbited the Moon, its sensitive instruments detected a series of low-frequency pulses emanating from within one of the underground voids. These weren't random electromagnetic bursts or interference from the spacecraft's own systems. The pulses followed a precise pattern, repeating every 143 minutes before stopping completely for exactly 24 hours, then resuming the same cycle. No known geological process, magnetic phenomenon, or gravitational effect could explain this level of precision and regularity. The signals had structure, cadence, and what appeared to be intentionality. The frequency and timing of these pulses ruled out natural explanations. They weren't caused by solar-wind interactions, tidal forces, or thermal expansion and contraction of lunar materials. The 143-minute interval was too specific, too consistent, and too mathematically precise to be coincidental. Musk, ever the provocateur, allowed the ambiguity of these findings to linger during his presentation. He didn't speculate about whether the signals represented the residual function of some ancient mechanism or possibly even a form of active communication. But the implications were clear to everyone in attendance. Something beneath the Moon's surface was operating according to its own mysterious schedule. Following the signal analysis, SpaceX's team decided to send a more focused mission to investigate these anomalies directly. A smaller, specialized lander was sent to a region near the South Pole, known for its challenging terrain and proximity to some of the strongest signal sources. The lander was equipped with advanced drilling tools, including boron carbide drill bits and heat-resistant exploration drones designed to operate under the Moon's extreme temperature conditions. The mission aimed to penetrate the lunar crust and study the source of the unusual signals and heat signatures. After drilling about 90 meters, the equipment encountered an unexpected metallic layer unlike typical lunar rock or known meteorite materials. When drilled, this layer produced a resonant ringing sound that lasted several seconds, generating harmonic patterns. Spectrographic analysis suggested the material might be an alloy with rare earth elements arranged in a crystalline lattice. If confirmed, this could indicate a complex composition, unlike natural cosmic or planetary materials. The properties appeared somewhat similar to advanced composites used in quantum computing and aerospace, though further study is needed to understand their origin and nature. The scientific community, cautious and methodical by nature, was confronted with data that was difficult to dismiss or explain. While peer review and independent verification could take months or years, the initial findings were already influencing discussions within major space agencies worldwide. Musk's decision to release the raw data openly, instead of keeping it classified, encouraged a new approach within the global scientific community. The Moon was no longer seen merely as a stepping stone to Mars or a testing ground for technologies, but both as a subject of renewed scientific interest with potentially significant implications. These discoveries prompted spacefaring nations, including China's Chang'e program, India's Chandrayaan missions, and NASA's Artemis project, to consider accelerating their timelines and increasing funding. The Moon's importance expanded beyond resources like helium-3 or strategic positioning. If future research were to confirm unknown technology or artificial structures, it would represent a major archaeological discovery. This possibility has led to increased competition for lunar access, driven by the desire to study and understand any such findings. Space agencies that had previously cooperated on international lunar projects began reassessing their partnerships. The prospect of discovering unexpected lunar phenomena influenced considerations around resource sharing, territorial claims, and collaboration. What was once a cooperative scientific effort appears to be evolving into a more competitive race to explore this intriguing object. In the days following Musk's revelation, public interest surged, reminiscent of the excitement during the original Apollo moon landings. Private space companies saw stock valuations rise as investors considered the potential impact of lunar exploration. Educational institutions incorporated more advanced astronomy topics, and social media was filled with theories, animations, and amateur analyses of the released data. Beneath this excitement, a deeper, more existential tension emerged. The possibility that much of what humanity thought it knew about the Moon, our solar system, and even our origins might require reconsideration sparked widespread philosophical reflection beyond scientific circles. If the Moon were found to contain constructed, modified, or inhabited features created by an intelligence beyond our current understanding, it would challenge a core assumption of modern science, the principle of mediocrity. This principle holds that Earth and its cosmic neighborhood are ordinary and statistically unremarkable in the universe. The discovery of artificial structures or advanced technology on the Moon would raise profound questions about whether our solar system is simply a random collection of matter or if it has been shaped or influenced by intelligence in ways we have yet to comprehend. Such a realization invites humanity to reflect on our place in the cosmos. Are we alone in developing technology and consciousness, or might we be one of many intelligent species to have emerged in this region? Could earlier civilizations have left markers, warnings, or signs for those capable of eventually discovering them? The implications of Musk's revelations extend into human psychology and cultural memory. Throughout history, many civilizations ascribed mysterious or divine qualities to the Moon. Ancient cultures spoke of lunar deities, transformations influenced by moonlight, and the Moon's effects on human behavior and consciousness. What was often seen as superstition or metaphor now invites reconsideration. For example, the Dogon people of Mali have oral traditions involving artificial satellites in Earth's orbit. Similar ideas appear in fragmented Sanskrit texts, Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets, and some Gnostic scrolls from the ancient Mediterranean. These references have traditionally been classified as mythology and folklore, but some interpret Musk's data as giving them a new, intriguing context. Could these stories be symbolic or cultural memories inspired by actual observations or extraordinary events related to the Moon? The possibility that ancient humans had knowledge or experiences related to unusual lunar phenomena adds complexity to the mystery. Archaeological sites aligned with lunar cycles or featuring lunar symbolism are being re-examined with fresh perspectives and questions. As shockwaves from Musk's announcement spread globally, a quiet but intense urgency developed within scientific and engineering communities. Research institutes, aerospace divisions, and academic teams worked continuously to analyze the preliminary data SpaceX released in encrypted but publicly accessible formats. These were not sanitized summaries or edited highlights. Musk provided raw telemetry feeds, radar imaging data, and unprocessed resonance scans. This level of transparency allowed the global scientific community to examine SpaceX's findings directly, prompting reconsideration of some established ideas in lunar science. Interestingly, the earliest reactions came from systems theorists and complexity researchers rather than traditional astrophysicists or planetary geologists. These scientists noted that the spatial distribution of the underground voids did not resemble any known natural formations. Instead, the pattern suggested principles used in bioarchitecture and modular design, often applied in artificial intelligence research and neural network development. If the Moon really hides ancient technology, how do you imagine it might change humanity's future? Let's spark a cosmic conversation in the comments. The geometric patterns discovered beneath the lunar surface showed similarities to structures found in advanced computational systems and biological neural networks. This distribution differed from the random patterns expected from billions of years of meteor impacts and geological processes. The underground chambers and connecting passages appeared to follow organizational principles that some researchers interpret as indicative of design or planning. Computer scientists analyzing the spatial data observed that the void arrangements resembled optimization algorithms used in modern data center design and distributed computing networks. The chambers seemed positioned to balance structural efficiency with material usage, reflecting mathematical principles that human engineers have recently begun to apply. Additionally, these patterns appeared to scale across multiple levels. The same geometric relationships governing large chambers were observed in smaller connecting passages and even microscopic structures in the metallic alloy samples. This fractal-like organization suggests a form of systematic arrangement across different scales, though further study is needed to understand its nature. While engineers admired the structural features, mathematicians focused on a mysterious 143-minute pulse cycle detected from the underground chambers. What seemed like a simple rhythm revealed greater complexity upon detailed analysis. The 143-minute interval appeared to correspond with prime-sequenced harmonics found in advanced acoustical engineering and signal processing. The pulse pattern contained elements resembling Fibonacci ratios, binary increments, and harmonic scales, which some interpreted as signs of sophisticated mathematical structure rather than random coincidence. Further analysis showed nested patterns within the pulse sequence, resembling a complex musical composition with multiple layers. Some researchers speculated that the signals might represent an attempt to establish mathematical communication protocols, potentially using universal mathematical constants as a foundation. The precision and complexity of these patterns made natural origins less certain, as no known geological, magnetic, or gravitational processes are understood to produce signals with such consistency and mathematical features. However, further research is needed to confirm these findings and explore possible explanations. Within research facilities at CERN, Europe's leading particle physics laboratory, some quantum physicists and exotic matter specialists have reportedly discussed unusual findings related to materials discovered in the Moon's metallic subsurface layer. Details remain limited and unconfirmed. There are speculative reports about the possible presence of quark-gluon plasma fragments, exotic states of matter that are normally unstable under Earth conditions. If such materials were found to exist stably, they could have significant implications for future technologies, potentially including advanced propulsion, quantum communication methods, or new forms of information storage. These possibilities extend beyond astronomy to practical technology applications. The discovery of stable exotic matter on the Moon, if verified, might open pathways to breakthroughs in energy production, space travel, and information processing. However, further research and verification are necessary to understand these findings. As hard science has grappled with data challenging fundamental assumptions about physics and planetary formation, anthropologists and historians renewed their interest in ancient texts and cultural artifacts related to the Moon. For thousands of years, civilizations around the world recorded the Moon not just as a celestial body, but as an active presence with mysterious properties and influences. The Dogon people of Mali are known for ancient astronomical knowledge that included details about celestial bodies not visible to the naked eye. Their oral traditions mention artificial satellites and cosmic engineering concepts that have often been regarded as mythological stories. Similar themes appear in Sanskrit texts from ancient India, Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets, and fragmentary Gnostic manuscripts from the early Christian era. These cultural references have traditionally been interpreted as symbolic or mythological explanations for natural phenomena. However, the precision of some astronomical details in these sources, combined with Musk's recent revelations about potential artificial structures on the Moon, has led some scholars to reconsider whether these texts might reflect fragmented memories of historical observations rather than purely mythological narratives. The South Pole Aitken Basin, known as one of the largest and oldest impact craters in the solar system, drew new attention due to unusual readings. Previous missions, including NASA's Gravity Recovery and Interior Laboratory, found mass concentrations there that didn't fit typical impact models, suggesting denser subsurface structures. SpaceX's recent data revealed organized voids and metallic layers beneath the basin, leading scientists to consider alternative explanations. Instead of a natural crater, the basin might be the result of intentional excavation, structural collapse, or large-scale construction. If true, this would challenge current lunar geology and solar system history, indicating engineering on a scale far beyond anything humans have built. Don't miss a single chapter in this unfolding lunar story. Subscribe and join us as we explore the secrets of the cosmos together. As governments reassessed lunar plans, the moon shifted from scientific interest to a national security issue. The U.S. Department of Defense issued classified briefings about possible unknown technology within lunar structures. The idea of dormant systems or advanced materials on the moon raised new security concerns. Military experts began considering scenarios once thought to be science fiction, such as activation of lunar systems or signals serving as warnings or countdowns. Intelligence agencies faced challenges evaluating threats not from Earth-based adversaries. Existing security and legal frameworks, including the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, were unprepared for potential non-human technology or structures on the moon. Within SpaceX's advanced engineering teams, development focused on innovative exploration technologies to investigate lunar anomalies. Traditional rovers and drilling equipment were insufficient for exploring vast underground chambers and analyzing newly discovered materials. Engineers designed autonomous exploration units called eco-seeds that could be deployed in swarms to map and study subsurface structures in detail. These devices combined artificial intelligence with miniaturized sensors capable of operating under extreme lunar conditions. Unlike conventional equipment, eco-seeds were built for three-dimensional navigation in complex underground environments. They featured quantum communication systems to maintain contact with surface controllers, even when deep inside the moon, and a modular design to adapt to changing mission needs. A secondary goal for these devices was to attempt interaction with any active systems found within the lunar structures. The eco-seeds included translation algorithms and pattern recognition software aimed at identifying and potentially communicating with artificial intelligence systems, should such systems exist. One intriguing development came from audio engineers who converted mysterious pulse signals into audible frequencies. When slowed down to human hearing range, the signals revealed what researchers described as a harmonic tapestry of tones with mathematical complexity. Some listeners found the signals resembled music with intricate structures, while others heard mechanical rhythms. Linguists and communication specialists noted that the wave patterns showed similarities to spectrograms found in human language and communication systems. This led to a new field combining linguistics, mathematics, and xenobiology. Research teams used advanced machine learning trained on ancient human languages to analyze the signals for signs of intentional communication, rather than random electromagnetic noise. Preliminary results were intriguing but inconclusive. Some tonal sequences matched symbolic structures similar to Sumerian cuneiform scripts, while others resembled rhythmic patterns like Morse code, though timing and frequency did not match known human protocols. Rather than causing panic, Musk's revelations sparked a renewed sense of wonder about the moon. Telescope sales surged as amateur astronomers showed new interest, and science fiction novels featuring lunar archaeology and ancient technology became popular again. The discovery raised important ethical questions previously considered only in philosophy. If the moon contained artifacts or technology created by non-human intelligence, what rights would humanity have to study or use them? Would the creators, if they existed, have any claim? Religious institutions began exploring the theological implications. The Vatican formed committees to examine the findings in light of Catholic doctrine. Islamic scholars discussed their relation to Quranic teachings. And Hindu philosophers noted similarities with ancient Sanskrit texts on cosmic cycles and civilizations. Legal experts faced the challenge of creating frameworks for governing discoveries and the potential use of non-human technology. Existing international laws offered little guidance for archaeological findings of possible extraterrestrial origin, especially if such discoveries included active technology or information systems. One intriguing finding came from a detailed analysis of timing data recorded by SpaceX's orbital probe. Engineers noticed subtle discrepancies in the spacecraft's atomic clock readings when passing over lunar areas linked to strong electromagnetic anomalies. These tiny timing differences suggested localized distortions in spacetime that could not be explained by the Moon's gravity or known relativistic effects. Such temporal anomalies might indicate exotic matter or energy fields, but this remains unconfirmed. If verified by independent research, these observations would be the first possible evidence of artificially generated spacetime effects, concepts currently theoretical or found in science fiction. The implications for physics and technology could be significant, potentially involving faster-than-light communication or other advanced possibilities. The idea that the Moon might limit access to its secrets through space-time phenomena adds further mystery. It raises questions about whether the Moon is simply a repository of ancient technology or an active system designed to reveal information only when humanity is ready. Elon Musk's revelation about the Moon marks a major shift in how we understand our place in the cosmos. The Moon, long seen as a silent companion, now appears to be more than just a rock. It could be a message, a library, or a machine. As we face this potential breakthrough, we must ask, are we ready to uncover the Moon's secrets? Could we not be alone? These questions will shape our future and our understanding of the universe. The Moon is no longer just a destination. It has become a teacher with mysteries that could transform humanity. The age of lunar discovery is just beginning. If you found this fascinating, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Share your thoughts on Musk's claims in the comments, and stay tuned for more discoveries reshaping our view of the cosmos. In 2023, Chief Petty Officer Robert Johnson, the last surviving member of Admiral Byrd's crew, ended decades of silence to share his account of Operation High Jump. According to Johnson, the mission uncovered far more than routine Antarctic training. He described a vast fissure in the ice that gave off heat, a steady vibration in the air, and a tunnel made of material unlike rock or metal, yet resembling both. Of those who entered, one never returned, and another emerged changed, never speaking of it again. So what did Admiral Byrd's team really uncover beneath the ice? Before his passing, Johnson, the last surviving member of Admiral Byrd's legendary expeditions, chose to share his long-guarded memories of those distant journeys across the Antarctic ice. When once asked if he would ever return to the frozen continent, he replied with a smile, "Why do you think I'm in Florida, where it's warm?" What he went on to disclose has captivated researchers and enthusiasts alike, reshaping long-held ideas about Antarctica. His account touched on classified operations, mysterious encounters, and experiences so remarkable that it took him nearly 8 decades to finally speak about them. Johnson's testimony does more than revisit history. It opens the door to a story with the potential to transform how we view one of the most remote places on Earth. Nearly 80 years had passed since Operation High Jump, yet when Chief Robert Johnson finally sat before the camera, the atmosphere shifted. His hands trembled slightly, his voice carried the weight of age, but his words came with clarity, no script, no notes, just memory. "The Admiral and I," he began, "we weren't close. But on that final night he looked at me and said, 'You were there. You know what we saw. Never forget.' Johnson never did." He leaned forward, eyes narrowing as though the past had drawn him back. "There was a mission within the mission," he explained. "Only a handful of us knew. Maybe 24 in total. We were flown out in small groups, never logged officially, and dropped at coordinates that didn't make sense. The team touched down near what appeared to be an ordinary ridge of ice until they felt it. Heat radiated from the surface, and a low vibration filled the air, as though the very atmosphere was alive with energy. They were ordered to investigate. What they discovered was startling. A fissure carved into the ice, narrow yet deliberate. The snow around it had melted in precise geometric shapes, and the opening led into a tunnel, part ice, part something else entirely. It wasn't rock, and it wasn't metal, Johnson recalled. It was both smooth and curved, almost as if it had been engineered. Caution was given, but curiosity overruled. One officer entered. He did not return. Another followed, secured with a line, only to be pulled back unconscious, his eyes open but vacant. He never spoke again, was later discharged, and placed under medical care. Soon after, Johnson's team was evacuated. Days later, the site was destroyed under the explanation of routine testing, though Johnson believed the timing told another story. Whatever was there, he said, it wasn't meant to be found. When asked if he thought the discovery was extraterrestrial, Johnson hesitated. I can't say for certain. It could have been something ancient, something we uncovered rather than created. But it was not natural, and it was not ours. He shared that Admiral Byrd confided in him before the operation ended, shaken and restless, speaking of consequences too great to ignore. Byrd's words echoed in Johnson's memory. This changes everything we think we know about this world. For decades, Johnson honored his silence. But in his final years, he chose to keep Byrd's request differently by remembering aloud. I don't need people to believe me, he said. But I was there. Others were too. Most of them are gone now, but I'm still here. And I promised I wouldn't forget. I never have. To the public, Operation High Jump was presented as a large-scale training mission, a test of endurance in Earth's harshest environment. Yet for those who were there, and for researchers who later examined classified records, the story carried far more weight. The operation's scale alone raised questions. 13 ships, among them the aircraft carrier USS Philippine Sea, 33 aircraft, over 4,000 personnel, naval infantry, armored vehicles, and heavy weaponry. An extraordinary force for what was described as a scientific survey. As Cold War archives later revealed, Antarctica was becoming more than an icy wilderness. It was a new frontier with immense strategic value. If any superpower managed to establish a permanent foothold there, it could shift the global balance. And behind the official statements there lingered a deeper concern, the possibility that someone else had already done so. Following World War II, speculation grew that remnants of the German military had escaped to remote strongholds, some said even beneath Antarctic ice. While many accounts were dismissed, intelligence records confirmed that U-boats were tracked moving south long after the war had ended. One even surrendered months later near Argentina. Chief Robert Johnson recalled the atmosphere aboard the fleet. It wasn't fear, he explained, but a constant state of readiness. We knew more was happening than just survival training. Once Admiral Byrd's team reached Antarctica, the mission quickly shifted. Surveillance flights multiplied, and certain ground units were dispatched into regions officially labeled as unstable. One team, Johnson remembered, entered a mountainous area where the snow seemed to melt in unusual, patterned ways, suggesting a warmth beneath the surface that didn't appear to be natural geothermal activity. That team never returned. In the days that followed, Operation High Jump was abruptly brought to an end. Official reports cited severe weather and logistical strain. Yet in private, Byrd and other officers warned that the situation on the ground had grown untenable. Unconfirmed accounts even referenced encounters that were never fully explained. When Byrd returned, those close to him noted a change. He spoke little of the expedition, and his official report was heavily redacted, with sections sealed for decades. Johnson would later recall a private moment aboard ship when Byrd confided, "We saw something out there we weren't supposed to, and now we can't go back." Those words stayed with Johnson for the rest of his life. Whatever Operation High Jump truly uncovered, it was not merely about training, terrain, or tactics. The mission seemed to touch on something larger, an encounter or perhaps even a warning that reshaped how its participants viewed Antarctica. For Johnson, one certainty remained: the continent was far from empty, and what unfolded there was something history has yet to fully acknowledge. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Don't forget to share it with your friends too. It helps the channel out, and I'm excited to continue bringing you more awesome content. The journey to the designated sector tested every limit. Johnson and his small team advanced in tracked vehicles, crawling slowly across vast stretches of ice beneath skies that seemed to press down upon them. At night, they camped beside towering ridges, their tents shuddering in the gusts like fragile paper. The cold seemed alive, moving through layer after layer until it settled deep in their bones. After 4 days, the endless flatness gave way to a harsher landscape. Jagged ridges rose around them, and deep crevasses split the ground. It was here that they came upon it, a fissure wider than a city street, its edges glowing faintly in the dim light. Above it, the air seemed to shimmer, as though warmth was rising where none should exist. Bird's second-in-command gave the order to secure ropes and begin a descent. Johnson volunteered to go first. The moment he crossed the edge, a sound met him, a deep, resonant hum that seemed to vibrate through his chest. It wasn't mechanical, yet it carried a steady rhythm, almost like a pulse. As he descended, the ice walls revealed unexpected shapes. Smooth in places, they curved as though intentionally carved. Pockets of warm air brushed his face, carrying scents unfamiliar to Antarctica, earthy, damp, reminiscent of a forest after rainfall. When he reached the bottom, the ice gave way to a cavern floor of polished, dark stone. What unfolded beyond was something Johnson never fully described. He would later say only this: the space was not empty. It had been shaped with intent, the walls bearing markings none of the team could recognize. No signs of recent life were found, yet the place felt aware, quiet, vast, and watchful. Bird studied the walls in silence, tracing the carvings with his gloved hand. He conferred in hushed tones with his officers, too far for Johnson to hear. Soon after came the order: take photographs, make sketches, and return to the surface. Their journey back to base was subdued. No one spoke of what they had seen. Once aboard, Bird issued instructions to strike the fissure from official maps, and reports were rewritten before being sent to Washington. Johnson realized then the gravity of what they had uncovered. It was a discovery that challenged every accepted truth about Antarctica, something not meant for the wider world, at least not then. When Operation High Jump was brought to an abrupt close in early 1947, it was as if a curtain had fallen. No official documentaries were produced, no presidential addresses were made, and for more than a decade there were no comparable missions to Antarctica. Silence replaced what had once been one of the largest expeditions in naval history. Admiral Byrd surfaced only once more, during a final press conference in South America. Observers noted a change in his demeanor. He appeared weary, his words more measured than before. In that address, now famous among researchers, he warned of a new power capable of crossing from pole to pole at extraordinary speeds. Yet soon after, the interview faded from view. The footage was rarely seen again, transcripts were edited, and Bird's statement slipped into obscurity, reduced to a minor Cold War footnote. But questions lingered. Not all records from Operation High Jump were ever made public. Significant portions of the mission's logs, aerial surveys, and Navy footage remain unreleased to this day. Freedom of Information Act requests uncovered references to documents that were reportedly lost in transit, damaged in archival floods, or else stamped with a classification that had no expiration. Chief Robert Johnson never forgot the reports that later went missing because he had seen them himself. There were photographs. He recalled, aerial shots we took on a clear day. No clouds, no storms. And yet there were structures, geometric patterns in the ice, openings, even what looked like massive doors. Those images, however, disappeared from the official record. Other documents vanished too: flight logs from downed aircraft, incident reports, and even full personnel lists. Some names of crew members were erased, as though they had never taken part in the mission at all. From the sudden end of Operation High Jump in 1947 until his death a decade later, Admiral Byrd never led another Antarctic mission of that scale. When he spoke publicly, his comments focused on weather studies or base construction, and whenever questions turned to high jump, he changed the subject. The government kept the same silence, shifting attention elsewhere. Then, in 1959, the Antarctic Treaty was signed, declaring the continent a zone for peaceful science: no weapons, no military activity, and no mention of what had come before. To Johnson, the treaty was more than diplomacy. They wanted it sealed, he said. Untouchable. Because whatever we discovered, they couldn't allow it to be found again. Over the years, Johnson watched Operation High Jump fade into history. Bird's name became a textbook entry, and speculation was dismissed as rumor. Yet Johnson carried the weight of what he knew. aware of how carefully the truth had been buried. At times he said it felt like living in two different histories, the version the world accepted and the one he had lived. For nearly 8 decades he stayed silent, not out of fear, but because he believed no one was ready. Only at the end of his life did he decide the time had come. Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd was more than a decorated officer. He embodied the early 20th century's hunger for discovery. He first entered national headlines in 1926 with his claim of flying over the North Pole. Whether the details were exact mattered little. The public wanted heroes, and Byrd fit the role. He wore the Medal of Honor with quiet pride, spoke with precision, and carried himself with the composure of a man who had wrestled with nature and lived to tell it. He moved between worlds with ease, briefing politicians on polar research one day, thrilling lecture halls the next. Newspapers adored him. His fur-lined parka face sold papers, and his words stirred readers. Yet those who knew him best saw that behind the charm was a deeper pull, not arrogance but an unrelenting drive toward the unknown. For Byrd, exploration was not about planting flags but entering spaces where questions grew heavier than answers. Nowhere did this hunger burn more than in Antarctica. His first Antarctic expedition in 1928 was celebrated as a triumph. He returned with maps, data, and dramatic photographs, but privately hinted at things left unsaid. Something there gnawed at him. And though the world celebrated his success, Byrd was already preparing to return. Each expedition grew larger and more guarded. Officially, they were about science and mapping, but inside, secrecy tightened. Certain discussions happened behind closed doors, and certain maps never appeared in reports. By the late 1930s, Byrd was both celebrated and mysterious. To the public, he was the daring adventurer. Inside the Navy, it was understood that his Antarctic work had uncovered matters requiring discretion. Rumors spread of strategic resources, uranium, and even stranger anomalies in navigation and magnetism. Byrd did little to encourage or dismiss these whispers. He had reached a point where he chose not only his missions but his men. Skills mattered, but loyalty mattered more. Journalists found his operations harder to cover. Politicians met polite evasions. To the public, he remained the heroic explorer, but to those closer, the expeditions carried shadows. By 1939, as Byrd prepared for another mission under the U.S. Antarctic Service, secrecy deepened. Classified documents circulated, maps hinted at unexplained targets, and the Navy's hand was heavier than usual. Those close to the planning sensed the mission was not just about weather stations and mapping. It was about returning to something Byrd had already found, a presence or truth that had gripped him for over a decade. Recruitment began quietly, without fanfare. The men chosen did not know the full purpose, only that they served under Admiral Byrd. For 19-year-old Robert Johnson, one question lingered above all. What truth was Byrd guarding so closely that only a select few could be trusted to see it? Antarctica in the 1940s was more than a frozen wasteland. It was a continent of mystery, holding resources powerful enough to shift the balance of global power. Beneath the endless ice lay uranium, coal, and minerals that could fuel empires for centuries. Every nation knew control of Antarctica meant control of untapped wealth and strategic advantage. When Admiral Byrd led expeditions between 1928 and 1956, the world was edging into the Cold War. To the public, his missions looked like heroic quests for science. To world leaders, they were a contest for sovereignty over the last unclaimed continent larger than the United States and Mexico combined. A frozen crown at the bottom of the world. America sent Byrd as its champion in this high-stakes struggle. Robert Johnson, now speaking after decades of silence, recalled Antarctica as a place that bent the rules of nature itself. His hands trembled as he described being young and unprepared for the psychological toll. The continent had a way of changing people, he said, forcing them to question everything they thought they knew. He remembered the silence that drove men to the edge of madness, broken only by the thunder of shifting ice. Survival meant more than enduring the deadly cold, it meant confronting a landscape that resisted explanation. Johnson described areas where compasses spun, where the aurora australis moved in deliberate patterns, and where the ice itself glowed with an inner light. These were not hallucinations of exhausted men. Multiple crew members recorded the same events, their accounts haunting in their consistency. During the 1939 to 1941 United States Antarctic Service expedition, Johnson witnessed phenomena immediately classified as top secret. The ice-concealed caverns, geological anomalies and formations unlike anything known. His most vivid memory was of a vast crevasse, its glowing walls radiating warmth in the heart of Antarctica. It seemed less like frozen terrain than a threshold into the Earth itself. Johnson's testimony suggests Byrd's expeditions uncovered a continent far stranger than the world was told. Antarctica was no longer just a scientific frontier, it had become a place of secrets guarded with the highest discretion, its mystery shaping the course of polar exploration and the geopolitics that followed. For decades, Chief Robert Johnson was just another name among the thousands who served during the Cold War. But when the roster of Operation High Jump veterans was released in the 1990s, one detail stood out: Johnson was the last survivor. Born in 1924 in Norfolk, Virginia, he enlisted at 18. Practical and loyal, he was considered unremarkable, which may have been exactly why he was chosen. Men like him didn't ask questions. Yet after Operation High Jump, something shifted. He served another 20 years, then retired quietly. No memoirs, no interviews, no reunions. He built a life in logistics and never spoke of Antarctica, not to friends, not even to family, until his 99th birthday. That was when he finally broke his silence. "I'm not trying to prove anything," he said from his Virginia home. "I'm just trying to leave the truth behind." The truth he shared was not sensational. He never mentioned aliens or saucers, but his testimony aligned with fragments in declassified files. He spoke of the low hum beneath the ice, a patrol that vanished, and the night Admiral Byrd entered the communications tent pale and shaken, refusing to record a flight path he had just flown. Johnson recalled being assigned to a small security detail guarding what was described as a weather station but was clearly something else. "It had stairs in the middle of a glacier," he said. "I know concrete when I see it." An officer tried to photograph it, his camera was seized, and days later he was abruptly discharged without even packing his bag. After Byrd's final press conference, Johnson was reassigned stateside. He buried the memories, but they lingered. Decades later, when the internet was filled with rumors and conspiracy theories, he watched them all. Most he dismissed. But a few he admitted, a few got close. Asked why he chose to speak after so many years, Johnson grew emotional. "Because people deserve to know. And because I'm tired of carrying someone else's silence. I didn't sign up to be a liar." His voice, weathered by a century of restraint, carried the weight of things left unspoken for far too long. Operation High Jump slipped from memory almost as soon as it ended. Historians noted it briefly. Documentaries skimmed its surface, but the real story was buried beneath decades of secrecy and snow. Now, Chief Robert Johnson is the last voice remaining. His testimony reveals how far governments will go to bury the truth and how long one man can carry it. Johnson never pretended to have all the answers. He didn't sell his story or seek attention. He spoke only once to a small team of researchers with a single camera, quietly supported by a historical archive. No media, no sponsors, just his truth. "When I look back," he said, "I don't think we were meant to understand what we found. We weren't ready then. Maybe we're not even ready now." That may be the heart of the mystery, not what they saw, but what it meant. Was it alien, ancient, the remnant of a lost civilization, or the edge of technology far beyond human grasp? Whatever it was, it shook Admiral Byrd, silenced a naval task force, and left a young sailor with a burden he carried for nearly 80 years. Johnson's final words were not dramatic, but clear. "People think the Cold War was fought with bombs and spies, but I saw another kind of war. One no one wrote about, one that's still hidden. That's the part that should scare us the most." Today, Antarctica is sealed by international treaties. Officially, there are no military bases and no resource extraction, only science. Johnson believed otherwise. "They're not protecting the land," he said. "They're protecting what's under it." The legacy of Operation High Jump isn't just in naval records or lost flight logs. It's in the gap between what we're told and what we'll never be allowed to know. It lingers in the eyes of a man who waited nearly a century to speak, still uncertain if he should. And it echoes in the silence of Admiral Byrd, whose final years were spent in near total privacy, his most famous mission reduced to whispers and half-truths. Now, with Johnson's voice, that silence is broken. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Have you ever wondered if the brain could reveal extraordinary abilities in the most unexpected ways? A man woke up speaking fluently a language he had only learned a week earlier after a car accident. However, it took him 2 more days to speak his native tongue again. The following 20 stories showcase the extraordinary abilities of ordinary people. Let's dive in. When Ben McMahon was 22, he woke from a coma more than a week after a serious car accident. To his family's astonishment, he could only speak Mandarin Chinese. On waking, he addressed a nurse in fluent Mandarin and later wrote, "I love my mom, I love my dad, I will recover."
After waking up from the coma, I saw a Chinese-looking nurse. And because the first person I spoke to was in Mandarin, my internal monologue became Chinese.
His parents realized he could no longer communicate in English, his native language. Doctors were intrigued. Ben had studied Mandarin in Melbourne but was far from fluent. Yet after the accident, he spoke it with ease. A few days later, his English slowly returned. The experience transformed his life. He later moved to Shanghai to study commerce and was invited to host a Chinese television program. Experts explained his case as a rare phenomenon in which brain trauma activates dormant language pathways while suppressing others. His story drew international attention as it highlighted the brain's remarkable ability to adapt and reorganize after injury. In September 2002, Jason Paget was leaving a karaoke bar in Tacoma, Washington, when 2 men attacked him for his leather jacket. Jason was treated in the emergency room and sent home the same night, but the next morning he noticed something unusual. Water from his faucet appeared as geometric patterns, and his hands seemed to move in slow motion. The head trauma had triggered a remarkable transformation. Jason developed the ability to visualize and draw complex fractals by hand, repeating geometric patterns that form the basis of many structures in nature and mathematics. He saw mathematical forms everywhere. Light reflecting off his car appeared as arcs linked to pi, and tree leaves seemed arranged by hidden theorems. Before the attack, Jason was a furniture salesman and community college dropout with little interest in academics. Afterward, he was recognized as a mathematical savant. His rare condition, acquired savant syndrome, affects fewer than 100 people worldwide. Stanley Robinson claimed he could see the future in his dreams. It began when he dreamed about 2 planes colliding mid-air, and the next day, a similar disaster occurred. From then on, he reported nightly premonitions, keeping a detailed dream journal. In one experiment, Stanley Robinson was asked to dream about 10 secret locations before visiting them, and he reportedly identified all of them correctly. His experiences began during a stressful period when he worked as an air traffic controller, a job demanding constant focus on aircraft movements. Researchers have suggested that his brain may have been processing subtle environmental cues overlooked by his conscious mind, later weaving them into predictive dreams. Skeptics argue that confirmation bias and selective memory explain his apparent successes, but the reported experiments have left some questions open. In 1986, at the age of 30, Ken Walters was working as an engineer when an out-of-control forklift crushed him against a wall. The accident led to 2 strokes. The second stroke, in 2005, took his life in a surprising direction. While recovering in the hospital, Ken began filling his notepad with drawings and sketches, despite having shown no previous interest in art. Doctors explained that in rare cases, a stroke can rewire the brain and uncover hidden abilities. They warned the change might be temporary, but Ken proved otherwise. After returning home, he embraced digital tools and began producing striking computer-generated artwork. His pieces drew attention and have since been displayed in office buildings, art galleries, and even virtual spaces. Few people can withstand cold like Wim Hof, the Dutchman known as the Iceman. He developed a special breathing and meditation method that enables him to endure extreme cold conditions. Among his feats, he ran a full marathon north of the Arctic Circle at -20°C wearing only shorts, climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in similar attire, and sat in a container filled with ice cubes for nearly 2 hours without harm. Hov has set more than 20 Guinness World Records related to cold exposure. His method combines controlled breathing, gradual cold exposure, and meditation. The breathing involves about 30 deep breaths, exhaling fully and holding, then inhaling deeply and holding again briefly. Repeating this cycle appears to influence the autonomic nervous system in ways once thought impossible. Scientific studies have shown that Hov can consciously affect his immune response and regulate his body temperature. His method has been successfully taught to others, suggesting these abilities are not unique to him but can be developed through training. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Don't forget to share it with your friends too. It helps the channel out, and I'm excited to continue bringing you more awesome content. Daniel Browning Smith, known as the Rubber Boy, holds multiple Guinness World Records for his extraordinary flexibility. He can twist his body into shapes that seem more cartoon than human, thanks to an extremely rare form of hypermobility. He has folded himself into boxes, squeezed through impossibly tight spaces, and even made appearances in Hollywood films and television shows. His flexibility is linked to unusually elastic connective tissues, though not officially diagnosed as Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. While hypermobility can cause health issues, Daniel has turned it into a remarkable performance art. He can dislocate his joints at will and contort into positions most people would find impossible. Among his most famous feats are fitting his entire body through an unstrung tennis racket, rotating his torso in seemingly impossible ways, and bending backwards until his head touches his feet. Despite his success, Daniel must remain cautious as his extreme flexibility also puts him at risk of joint dislocations and tissue strain. When Derek Amato was 39, he struck his head on the shallow end of a swimming pool while diving for a football, suffering a severe concussion. He was briefly unconscious and later hospitalized, left with memory loss, partial hearing loss, and chronic headaches. Not long after, while visiting a friend, Derek sat at an electronic keyboard despite never having played before. Instantly, intricate melodies poured from his hands, astonishing those around him. From that day forward, music became central to his life. He went on to compose and perform professionally, releasing recordings without ever taking lessons. Neurologists believe his brain injury may have reorganized or activated dormant pathways linked to musical ability, a phenomenon called acquired savant syndrome. Derek describes experiencing music as flowing black and white patterns, suggesting his brain translates sound into vivid imagery. A few years ago, Scott Melly was in a car crash when another vehicle struck his at nearly 112 km/h. The accident left him with a brain injury, but also unlocked a hidden talent. In the difficult months that followed, he felt detached from his own life. Then, during a trip to a craft store with his children, he suddenly felt compelled to paint. Despite having no prior interest in art, his first work showed striking skill. Scott was later diagnosed with atypical acquired savant syndrome, a rare condition where brain trauma triggers extraordinary abilities. He often says his life restarted at age 38. Now based in Wilmington, he has built a career as an artist, creating paintings noted for their depth, color, and emotional impact. One piece depicts a girl trapped underwater, reflecting his past struggles, though he himself no longer feels confined. Researchers have found increased brain activity in areas tied to creativity, and his art demonstrates a mastery usually developed over years of training. What's the most surprising talent or skill you discovered in yourself, or someone you know after a major life change? Let us know in the comments below. Daniel Tammet's life is remarkable. As a child, he suffered epileptic seizures that altered his brain development. Later diagnosed with high-functioning autism and savant syndrome, he became known for his extraordinary memory, mathematical talent, and gift for languages. He once demonstrated the ability to learn conversational Icelandic in a single week for a TV challenge, and he set a European record by reciting pi to 22,514 digits. Tamid also experiences synesthesia, perceiving numbers as shapes, colors, textures, or motions. Every number up to 10,000 has a unique identity for him. 117 appears as a beautiful shape, while 9 feels large and overwhelming. When solving problems, he doesn't calculate step by step, but instead sees visual patterns that reveal answers. This unusual perception helps him both with math and rapid language learning. He describes 37 as lumpy like porridge and 89 as falling snow. His abilities continue to fascinate scientists and highlight the brain's untapped potential. Bob Munden, often called the fastest gun who ever lived, redefined speed and accuracy with a firearm. He died in 2012, but his feats remain legendary. Using a single-action revolver, he could draw, fire, and hit a target in about 0.02 seconds, faster than the blink of an eye. His accuracy was equally astonishing, splitting playing cards edge-on, hitting aspirin tablets in mid-air, and outdrawing opponents before they could react. Over his career, he set multiple world records in fast-draw shooting, several recognized by Guinness World Records. Munden's skill came from decades of relentless practice and a near-scientific study of biomechanics. Every element of his draw, from holster angle to muscle movement, was refined for maximum efficiency. His hands moved so quickly that only high-speed cameras could capture the motion. What truly set him apart was consistency. He could perform these lightning-fast draws with flawless precision thousands of times, relying on muscle memory, so sharp his body acted before his mind registered the command. Nikolai Krylyachenko, a schoolboy from Russia, claimed to have developed strange powers after leaning against a faulty lamp post and receiving an electric shock. The next day, he noticed coins sticking to his body, and soon spoons, cutlery, and other objects clung to his chest as if he were magnetic. A fan of Marvel's Magneto, Nikolai joked about becoming a superhero, and his unusual ability quickly made him popular at school. Scientists, however, doubt the claim. Dr. Abdul Roy, a biotechnology specialist, noted that electricity cannot magnetize the human body. Experts suggest the phenomenon is more likely due to skin friction, moisture, or natural stickiness rather than real magnetism. Some individuals can press objects to their skin in ways that make them appear to cling. The electrical shock may have simply heightened Nikolai's awareness of this natural trait. Kevin Richardson, known as the Lion Whisperer, is famous for his unique bond with lions and other big cats. Born in Johannesburg, South Africa, he discovered his calling at 23 while caring for lion cubs, an experience that reignited his passion for wildlife. Today, he runs the Kevin Richardson Wildlife Sanctuary near Pretoria, dedicated to protecting Africa's predators and supporting conservation research. Unlike traditional trainers, Richardson avoids dominance-based methods. Instead, he studies each animal's personality, social structure, and communication signals, building trust through respect and consistency. His hands-on approach has offered valuable insights into lion behavior and helped shape strategies for protecting wild populations. Through his work, Richardson shows that the relationship between humans and animals can be built on empathy and understanding rather than control. Shi Liliang, a Shaolin monk from Quanzhou, China, became famous for his extraordinary water walk. In 2015, he set a record by running 118 meters across floating plywood planks before they sank. The challenge required him to move with such speed, balance, and precision that each step landed on a board before it fully submerged. His ability is the result of years of Shaolin training that combines agility drills, balance practice on unstable surfaces, and intense mental focus. The technique demands perfect weight distribution and split-second timing, turning what seems impossible into a display of discipline and control. For Shaolin monks, such demonstrations are not simply stunts but proof of the mind-body coordination achieved through decades of practice. Shi Liliang's achievement highlights the blend of physical mastery and mental concentration that defines the Shaolin tradition. Do you think feats like Shi Liliang's water walk are more about physical training or mental discipline? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and follow the channel to discover more interesting things. Ke Jingyu, a prodigy from China, stunned the world at 13 by juggling and solving 3 Rubik's Cubes in under 5 minutes. a Guinness World Record set in 2018. A dedicated cuber since age 6, he has since performed other astonishing feats, including solving cubes while hanging upside down and even completing 3 simultaneously using both his hands and feet. Key's talent combines advanced spatial reasoning, pattern recognition, muscle memory, and extraordinary hand-eye coordination. To juggle and solve at once, his brain processes several streams of information while his hands execute perfectly timed movements. His training involved years of daily practice, gradually layering new challenges until the skills merge seamlessly. Flo and Kay Lyman, known as the Rain Man twins, are the world's only female autistic savant twins. Born in Connecticut, they share extraordinary memory skills that allow them to instantly name the day of the week for any date, past or future. They also recall vivid details of their lives, from meals and clothing to TV shows, songs, and weather. Their synchronized answers, often spoken in unison, highlight their unique neurological connection. Growing up in the 1960s, autism was little understood, and the sisters often struggled to fit in. With support from their younger sister Jane, they later found a more open and supportive environment that allowed their talents to be recognized. Their gifts have been documented in scientific studies and featured in media, including the film The Rain Man Twins. Today, Flo and Kay stand as remarkable examples of savant memory and pattern recognition, particularly in calendar calculation. In 1860, photographer Edward Muybridge was badly injured in a stagecoach accident in Texas, suffering a head trauma that altered his personality. Once sociable and cautious, he became eccentric, impulsive, and intensely creative. After a period of recovery in England, he returned to the US and built a career in photography. His greatest breakthrough came in the 1870s when California tycoon Leland Stanford asked him to settle a debate. Do all 4 of a horse's hooves leave the ground while galloping? Muybridge devised a system of cameras triggered in sequence, capturing the horse in motion. In 1878, his images proved Stanford right. There is a moment when all hooves are airborne. At 39, Justine Mitchell developed an extraordinary but debilitating condition. She could hear the movement of her own eyes, her heartbeat pounding, and everyday sounds at unbearable volume. The diagnosis was superior canal dehiscence syndrome, a rare disorder where a tiny hole in the inner ear causes extreme sound sensitivity and amplifies internal body noises. Simple activities became agonizing until doctors offered surgery. In the procedure, her ear canal was reinforced with tissue to block the abnormal sound transmission. After recovery, Justine regained a normal sense of hearing and relief from the overwhelming noise. Tim Fried is known for training his body to adapt to challenges that few would dare face. Over the years, he has worked closely with some of the world's most dangerous snakes, cobras, vipers, and mambas, allowing his immune system to gradually adjust through repeated exposure. His unusual practice, called Mithridatism, is an ancient idea of slowly building tolerance by introducing very small amounts of a substance over time. Tim's journey began after learning how serious snake encounters can be in places where medical treatment is limited. His determination to help inspired scientists to examine his blood, which shows unique antibody responses that may one day contribute to new therapies. Although his path is unconventional and carries great personal risk, his efforts have sparked interest in how the human body can adapt in extraordinary ways. Some people use lighters or even their teeth to open bottles, but one performer has taken this to another level by using parts of her body as the opener itself. Her unusual technique has drawn crowds and online attention, with audiences impressed by her control and precision, even if not everyone would choose to drink from a bottle open that way. Her ability highlights how adaptable and inventive the human body can be. By practicing unconventional movements, she has trained herself to accomplish a task most would consider impossible or unwise. Though her method is unconventional, it reflects the same spirit of creativity and physical problem-solving that drives many human feats, but from survival skills to record-setting stunts. In Thailand, some street food vendors have become known for being able to deep-fry food with their hands, claiming that while the oil feels hot, it does not burn or blister their skin. One such man, often nicknamed Superhands, Stories say he first realized this unusual ability while working at a food stall, when hot oil splashed onto his skin but left no burns. Word spread quickly, and he became a local sensation for his daring technique. Medical experts suggest that years of heat exposure may have built up unusually thick, callous skin. His rapid, confident movements also reduce contact time with the oil, further lowering the risk of burns. Some researchers believe that individual differences in pain sensitivity or skin composition could also play a role. What we've just witnessed challenges everything we thought we knew about human limitations. The common thread connecting all these individuals isn't their initial talents or training. Instead, it's how their brains and bodies adapted to extreme circumstances, trauma, or simply discovered hidden capabilities that were always there, waiting to be unlocked. These stories raise fascinating questions about the nature of human potential. Which of these abilities surprised you the most? Have you ever experienced a moment where you discovered a hidden talent or capability you didn't know you possessed? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a like, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Your support means a lot to us. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time. Deep inside a Martian core sample, researchers found molecular fingerprints that weren't random chemistry. They showed chirality, the same handedness rule followed by every living thing on Earth. Even more shocking,